All right, everybody, welcome to Tesla Today. So as we know, Tesla's just kicking it all over the place. Things are going to start looking even better in the next 3 months and the next 6 months and onwards. So for today's show, what we're going to do is go deep dive into what we're expecting in the next 3 months. The Model 3 Highland, the CyberTruck launch, and the Giga Nueva Neon groundbreaking. So we've got Brian White with us. He's the host of MyTeslaWeekend, and he is just full of knowledge. Welcome, Brian. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Herbert. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so the next 3 topics is things that you know really, really well. So let's go dive deep into them. And so before that, I want to show this kind of a table that I just tweeted out today. This is all the milestones for 2023 for Tesla. And all the green ones you can see have been done already. And then here we are in the second half of this year. The second half of this year is extremely exciting. So I'm going to break it down into the things that are going to happen in the next 3 months. And then we'll talk about the things that are going to happen the final quarter of this year. So let's look at the next 3 months. Here we go. So we have the Q2 earnings call. And then afterwards, we're going to see the Model 3 Highland, the Giga Nueva Leon groundbreaking, and the Cybertruck launch. So Brian, which of these 3 are you most excited for?
Boy, that's really tough to say. Normally I would say the Giga Nueva Leon groundbreaking because I count squares, I track factories, but no, it is indeed the Cybertruck launch. Let's put the rumors to bed. Let's get this thing on the road. This is going to be huge for the company's reputation. It doesn't have a logo because it doesn't need one, because you'll only have to ask, what is that, once, ever. Okay. You will not forget it.
Let's talk Cybertruck. So this thing is everywhere. Tell me everything you know about it, the specs. Do you know the price, Brian? Can you share that with me? So let's tell me what you do know.
So I did a presentation last weekend for the Oregon Owners Club, and we were talking about all the exciting big things that are coming. It's on my channel. You've seen it. The people are saying it's not real. It's not real. Guys, these are castings. We've been seeing these for months piling up. We know that the stuff is real. We've seen the parts coming out. We've seen different things. What do we know it's got? We know it's got rear steer. And is that going to be on all trims? Well, it's going to be definitely on whatever trim is at launch, because we've seen it. And it'd be pretty crazy to think that we would see it and then they would build a version that doesn't have it. That doesn't make sense to me. Do we know the pricing? No. There's a great debate on Twitter between people who are more pragmatic, like Chris from Dirty Tesla, who's saying, guys, it can't be 60. It's got better specs than the Model X, and that's 100. Right, but the Model X is very complicated to make. Those Falcon Wing doors cost probably 20 grand, and then you've got just the paint alone is worth a couple thousand. So you've got a lot of, and it's going to be quicker to build, simpler to build, easier to build. There are a lot of introduced savings. Now, at launch, I think they'd be crazy to go too low with it, because demand is insatiable and will be for a year, 2, maybe more. So what will the price be? I'm thinking we're going to be lucky if it stays under 80,000. That's my guess. And I think that's reasonable for a launch edition. You remember the Model 3 at launch was like 84,000, and that's a Model 3. But if there are people willing to pay that, why leave money on the table, I guess? And unlike with dealers who just mark things up, all these extra dollars go back into the company for R&D, for factory expansion, CapEx, OpEx, you name it. It's a better system when your cars sell themselves, which in the case of Teslas, quite fortunately, they do. Dealers are seeing inventory piling up on lots, including their EVs, especially their EVs, because the dealers don't really want to push them. And if they're upside down on them and prices have dropped, those guys are on commission. They don't want 20% of nothing. They want 20% of something more. So these are very exciting. And in terms of the other specs, I think we're still going to see the ultra hard glass. We're definitely still seeing the 3mm steel, the ultra hard steel. They didn't use the term stainless, so it might be a slightly different alloy than we were expecting. in part because a lot of the world's nickel supply comes from Russia, and trade with Russia is not exactly free right now. And yeah, other than that, I think all the specs that we expected to see, we're going to see. Some people had kept asking, oh, no, there's no pass-through from the bed. There was never a pass-through. That's where the tonneau cover rolls down. So we shall see.
Hey there, thank you for joining me. If you can, please consider supporting this channel so I can keep it going. It's a lot of work arranging all these amazing interviews. One of the easiest ways is just to click that join button and become a member of the channel. Thank you very much, and let's get brighter. So, Brian, people are saying that usually when you first launch the first version of the vehicle in September, we're expecting that they're going to do the premium version. It's going to be over $80,000, right? Sell, the very first ones are going to make very small amounts. Might as well sell the ones that are most expensive. Is that what you're expecting as well?
Not most expensive, but highest margin. Most expensive would be the quad motor. I don't know if we're going to launch with the quad motor. I don't know if we need to launch with the quad motor.
Makes sense.
Quad motors are very unusual because you don't have as much grab in the front. You don't need two motors up there. 3 can do the trick. And honestly, if you were selling just a single motor version right now for $80,000, people would still buy it. So I don't know. It's going to be competitive on its specs, and I don't see a reason for it to be priced lower than the Lightning, which, even though there's a hypothetical starting price of like $50,000 on it, that's the Pro model. They don't actually sell that one. They make a few to say that they did, but if you wish to buy one, you will not find one. Their models go up to about $84,000, and I believe that any CyberTruck with 2 or more motors will be as capable and more compelling than what Ford is offering at their new low price of $84,000.
Yeah. Okay. So that absolutely makes sense that they're it's gonna be cheaper than the Ford, because we saw Elon reply back saying that the Ford's a great truck, but it's a little too expensive. So I agree with you. That makes sense. So let's see what else
that could also be him trying to get in their head, because he's been doing that with CyberTruck since the unveiling. I don't know how serious the $40,000 price tag ever was, but it sure forced the legacy guys to do some real crazy stuff with their pricing, which, yeah, it's a battle of the wits, and he's a sharp cookie.
Yeah. You've shared that with me before, that it's common practice for companies to launch a car, announce it, and then make it sound so cheap, but then later they actually double the price, in fact, for many times.
Yeah.
All right, so what are we looking at here, Brian?
Parts. Pallets of parts. The people, when I pulled this to put the presentation together, there were still people saying, this isn't real, it's not coming. You don't make hundreds of castings and pallets of parts for something that isn't being built. It was just more parts. And this is the pilot line in Fremont, and you can tell because it's inside of a tent rather than a concrete building. And this was finalizing how the line works, training the first batch of workers who are going to go to Texas and show them how it's all done. And then, of course, we saw in Texas these great images of the bodies in white that are complete, ready to move on to the next step. And you can't look at that and say production isn't imminent. This is more interior leak footage than we've seen on all the other Tesla vehicles combined. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, and now this is one of the vehicles, so they can move it around and get it painted, get it ready to go.
Painted? They don't need to paint it.
Oh, sure. The stamped parts in the middle get painted. They've got a cutout in the section where the Cybertruck is made that connects it to the paint shop, because that middle section is just steel. And then, we've seen them out testing. Now, if you look back at all the other models we've seen, the timeline from public sightings of road testing to first deliveries is generally 3 to 4 months. Certainly never more than 6. So the idea that these will not be in customer hands, even if it's employees, by the end of the year is hard to swallow, to be polite.
Yeah, but in fact, we think it's September, right? Because once you've seen once Model
Right.
Y, when they showed their version of this, where the very first Model Y, 2 months later, that's when the first Model Y came off the production line to be handed off to delivery to customers. So
Yes.
this
And
came
that
out this
sounds-
weekend, and we're expecting by September.
Yeah, that is my expectation. Yes, that is my expectation as well. Whether or not they will be counted in the Q3 numbers is a different matter. We know there were about 90 semis made last quarter. They didn't show up in the deliveries. That's fine. You know, they don't always count them in the quarter they're made if it's a new production line. Shanghai manufactured vehicles in Q4 of 20, was it? 19? Did not show up until Q1 of 20 because they weren't yet I don't know. They weren't saleable in technical terms. They just didn't show up in the numbers, but they will.
So Brian, what kind of technology do you think that this truck might have? They've been teasing that this is supposed to be the most technology advanced vehicle that they'll ever make. It's the best vehicle that they've ever made. Elon keeps saying this is the truck that I'll be driving. Anything that other than the fact we've heard, of course, that it can float like a boat. That there's a pneumatic tube in there so that you can plug in your pneumatic tools. Anything else that you think that could be kind of exciting?
No, I can't think of it. And at this point, any speculation would be wrong. And I like sticking to facts. Yeah, sorry to disappoint. I do.
I'll push you. All right. So that is the Cybertruck. So we are pretty confident. I mean, all of us know that this is coming out. It's going to be out here in September. That's pretty fast. We're talking mid-July already, August and September. I mean, surely it can certainly be pushed, but it's going to happen, like you said, by this year. And it's going to be small quantities. And so far, we've not heard a single bit of news that could delay this, could be an issue. So it's a big deal, and it's finally here. How many years we've been waiting, eh? But it's finally here. So
right.
All right. The next one we're not so sure about, and that is the Model 3 Highland. So you and I have had a whole show on this, and we explained that this is the Model 3 being revised, and that there is rumors that this is more than just a facelift. And you can see here, there's leaked photos of this Model 3 already. We've shown this many times in this show. There's the covers to try to prevent folks from seeing it. And then the more covers, so this is definitely coming out. And then this is the bit. You've seen parts. Why don't you explain to folks again that this is one of the reasons why you think that this is real deal?
So I have seen the parts. I've seen literally parts. I've seen literally printed out orders for parts. I checked in with my sources last week and said, hey, can you pop into the office and see if there's any parts orders that have been cemented coming up? And the answer was inconclusive. The parts are not being made on the floor. I know that. So they are not yet poised to launch it. So it could be another month. It could be another 3. But there are new features. There are, these will not have stocks. These will have a new display for letting you know which gear you're in addition to the one on the screen. Be up by the mirror. It fades out when you're not in use. So if you come to a complete stop, if you're changing gears, whatever, it lights up to remind you what gear you're in. And it will be significant. Why would it not be significant? The Model S and X don't look like significant revisions, but they are. There were a lot of little changes made to the Model 3 to make it more efficient along the way, but these changes will be bigger. Of course they will. Why would they not be bigger? So that's, there's a huge benefit to getting in front of the right people and talking to them and being, making friends. And humans are not very good at keeping secrets. And once you know enough humans, you can get some secrets.
That's the nice thing about you, Brian, and your channel, My Tesla Weekend. You do have sources at each of these gigafactories, and you do get information ahead of most people. So I appreciate that about you. So this thing about
Yeah.
the Model 3 Highland, lots of rumors, or I mean, lots of sightings, lots of information. It seems very clear that it's here. It is something, but what we don't know is when it's coming. And that part,
Mhm.
who knows, right? So that part
Who
I'm not
knows?
very confident about. But another thing that has changed is Giga Nuevo Leon. So this is pretty cool. So Giga Mexico, they announced the plans. They said that this is going to be fast tracked. It's going to be a groundbreaking by June. Well, we're now in mid-July, and then about a month ago, we had the governor of Giga of Nuevo Leon come out and say that there was a delay with the permits and likely until 12 to 14 weeks. So we were all very concerned. Everybody started saying that Giga Mexico won't be opened until first quarter of 2025. Luckily, just last week, governor comes out again and says permits are fast tracking, they're almost complete, and we at any moment can expect to see the announcement of the groundbreaking. So, Brian, what do you think? Is there a chance that that they actually could announce the groundbreaking date soon?
Yes, absolutely, imminently, anytime. The thing to remember is a factory is a mega project. If you found out that some giant new bridge or tunnel or airport was going to be opening 6 weeks later than expected, would it break your heart? Would it surprise you? Would you consider the project a failure? Of course not. And there are possibilities that that's an amount of time that can be made up along the way. But when we're talking about a factory that's going to be making 2 million cars, maybe 4 million cars, that month or 2 or 3 is meaningless over the long term. If people are trying to watch every little bit of news to gain some kind of insight to give them a small advantage in their daily day trading, then maybe this is a big deal. But a few weeks, a few months on a 10-year, 20-year project, which is what I consider investing Tesla to be. I cannot imagine selling in less than 5 to 10 years. I can't imagine it. So these tiny bumps in the road are meaningless to me.
Yep, absolutely. So let's go back to discuss what we just covered. So very imminently, in the next several months, we're going to hear about the CyberTruck launch. For sure, we know that that's going to happen, very likely by September. We know we've been hearing that Giga Nuevo Leon groundbreaking will happen sometime in the next several months as well. And if we're surprised, there's going to be a Model 3 Highland. Isn't that amazing? In the next 3 months, we're going to see 2 new product lines that's going to expand the TAM. We know the Cybertruck is going to be massive in terms of its ability to grow, especially in the US. The demands for trucks is so big. And then we know that the Cybertruck is kind of desired by not just truck people. But the Model 3 Highland, you and I have done a big, long show on that where we uncovered that the market share for sedans is massive globally, maybe not in the US, but there's really a potential. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. Is this going to increase the market share for Tesla to separate itself from the Model 3? So we've got 2 products launching. We got another gigafactory all in the next 3 months. This is extremely exciting.
It's so exciting. If you would go back to your slide where you showed this year's different milestones, one thing I would like to point out is a lot of skeptics say Tesla always misses timelines, always, everything all the time. You've been doing these milestone lists for years now. And one thing I've noticed is your understanding of what's coming and when shows that it is predictable, that you can know with some degree of certainty when things are going to happen. If Tesla always missed deadlines all the time, your milestones would not work. And they do. They're accurate. They're surprisingly accurate. And the more you add to it, the more of them are. You're very good at it.
Oh, thank you. I mean, obviously, it's nothing special. Of course, I'm just checking what everybody else thinks it is, interviewing experts. But that point you made was very important because I need to repeat this to people. 2022, every single milestone that Tesla was supposed to accomplish, they accomplished in 2022. But we as Tesla investors don't think that because the stock fell. And so people are going, how come the stock fell? But the company is making progress. There's a disassociation between the stock price and the company's fundamentals. And so but when these fundamentals keep moving forward like this, there's no doubt at some point the stock has to, they're forced to catch up, because whenever you launch 2 gigafactories, you're going to start being able to produce millions more cars, and that produces revenue and earnings. And that's exactly what's happening now. So it may be delayed, but here we are. So that's great. So those are the two. We covered that. So next, let's go ahead and talk about Q4. So this is what's going to happen in the fourth quarter of this year. We obviously are expecting volume and deliveries for Q3. So this is Q3 on the first couple days after October. They'll announce it. What is your estimate, Brian, for Q3 volume and deliveries?
I think I had my chart at 473 or something, down just a hair if there is retooling for Model 3 Highland. That's going to dip into production in both Shanghai and Fremont. So down just a hair for production. Deliveries could still be a record because there would be inventory on the lot. You know, there's 16 days of inventory that would continue to be cleared even if the factory is closed for 5 days or 10 days or any amount of time. So yeah, Q3 deliveries could be a record. Production could not if the Model 3 Highland is underway, is being retooled. And then into Q4, we're going to see nothing but blue sky.
Yeah. You're one of the folks that you explained, which makes a lot of sense. Thank you for doing that, saying that if Model 3 revision is true and we're seeing slowdowns and shutdowns of certain lines, production lines, in preparation for a new vehicle, that will then reduce the volume that these gigafactories are able to produce. Therefore, you're not expecting production to necessarily be hugely above what it could be. But then Q4, everything's just full on, just moving along quite nicely. So that's great. So in the next thing we're going to expect to see is Tesla Bot Demo and AI Day 3. I pushed this to October, Brian, because people are saying that if the CyberTruck is launched in September, it's unlikely they're going to have their AI Day 3. It's going to be in October, so I moved it to October. I'm expecting this to be a very big event, and that I put Tesla Bot Demo there because I expect the Tesla Bot is going to have a big presence. They're going to show us new capabilities. It's the way that Tesla's going to be able to show the world that they are an AI company, and the bot is the best way to do that. Of course, FSD will be demoed and more information shared there, but it's the bot that can really grab the attention. What are you expecting for AI Day 3?
So I would agree with you that they're not going to do 2 big events in the same month. Are they even going to do a Highland launch? Maybe we see September Cybertruck, October for the bot for AI Day 2, and then maybe November. I don't know. We shall see. It could also be that the launch for Highland is a much more subdued event that doesn't require huge amounts of intellectual capital to be invested in the way that AI Day 3 would. So what am I expecting from AI Day 3? We will see how much Dojo is in use. We may see hints or even outright designs of Dojo 2. And we will, I assume, see what the bot is up to in terms of tasks and capacity. All the people saying it's already in use, it's already just about done, I think ignores the March of Nines. Getting a bot 90% done is easy, 99% is easy. And just like with FSD, the more nines you get, the more edge cases you find, the more problems you come into. And that's until Dojo is capable of magic, which is what I expect from it. As far as I can tell, that's how it's built, is upon magic. Until Dojo can solve all those crazy little problems, I don't see bot being necessarily safe to deploy in an industrial setting where it could fall into a machine, knock something over, start a fire, bump a human into danger's way. I think there's a lot of safety critical edge cases that would make it better suited for light janitorial work than industrial applications, which would restrict its deployable value. So, but what am I expecting from AI Day 3? I expect them to show something that will allow them to recruit even more brilliant young minds who are eager to do something that's going to mean something. Because not only will the pay be amazing, especially with your stocks, but the ability to do something that has so much meaning overall is going to be huge.
Right. And then you and I disagree on that, of course. I'm a big bot person and I've explained myself in many different videos, so we won't need to do that today. But yeah, a lot of things you said there, not true, but we can reserve that for another call. Yeah, that's okay. So then let's go through each of these, which is very curious because you do know a lot about this. Tell me about the 4680. What is its production line? The Lathrop Megapack ramp. Tell me about those two, and then we'll get to Gigafactories.
4680 has proved a bit vexing. Tesla believed that they would be able to ramp production at their test facility on Cato Road in Fremont. And it was the belief of me and a lot of people like me that they would have been stockpiling them for months so that when Berlin went live or Texas went live, they would be able to just draw from that supply while they're getting their own on-site supply running perfectly. And then they said, oh, by the way, we just made our millionth cell or something like that. To which all of us number crunchers said, a million? That's not enough. That's not even close to enough. That's like a few hundred cars, a few thousand cars. You guys are not, this isn't working. And then they began putting the lines in Texas, and we could see through the window those lines are running, but they weren't producing meaningful yield, and it was concerning. And then we got an announcement about a month ago that Panasonic has paused the completion of their 4680 line, citing just problems. They're going to focus on 2170s. They know how to make those in huge volume. They're going to focus on it. They will still work on completing their 4680 line. And we know a lot of other manufacturers are working on the 4680 form factor. Samsung, for sure. I believe BYD. But if you look up any of the big battery manufacturers and add 4680, you will see that a lot of them are working on building a line because they know Tesla will buy them. But so far, none of them have. So 4680 volumes are proving difficult, and not just for Tesla, but for everyone. And that's surprising to me because it is just a form factor, and the smartest people in the industry are absolutely working on it. So we'll have to wait and see what comes of that. You had another question there?
Sure. So that one I might need to push off Q4.
Sure.
That's where I've got 4680s. Yeah. So now Lathrop Megapack ramp. What do we know about that today?
As far as we can tell, it is still speeding up. It is accelerating towards its nameplate capacity. It is probably about 75% ramped, as far as I can tell. You are seeing, if you look in the news, you will see all kinds of these installations going in still around the world. Just over the past month, we've seen there's 68 of them going in to Giga Texas. They're at about 2/3 done at this point. About 40 plus of them are in. And, you know, that's every one of these is $2 million. And yeah, so 68, we've got 140 million of Tesla's capital tied up in Texas. But that 140 million isn't there for fun, and it isn't there for backup or safety. It's there to make money, and money it shall make, because when you hit super peak rates in the middle of the day, they're no longer drawing from the grid. They're using their own supply, and when nighttime comes, they juice it back up. So it's going to be a money printer. It'll take a year or two to make back the initial investment, but once they do, it's pure margin forever. So yeah, Lathrop is growing, and I do expect we may not see an announcement by the end of the year for the next Megapack factory, but that doesn't mean it won't already be built. In Shanghai, we see a lot of things happen with Tesla with no announcement. When they built the supercharger factory for the Asian market, they didn't announce it until it was done. They've got a distribution warehouse off-site. It's a huge building. We didn't know about it until one day one of the drone pilots happened to drive by it and see it fully operational. So we don't always see those announcements. And even with Lathrop, from the time they announced it with their groundbreaking for a building that's clearly already complete until the first production was like 3 months. The legacy battery manufacturers are making LFP batteries, which is what's used in the stationary storage for Tesla, at increasing rates. Tesla will buy every cell they can make. As soon as they can make enough to supply an entire additional megapack factory, they will build it and begin production.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for the update on Lathrop. I do expect that there's going to be megapack factories announced. That's why he's been going around shaking hands with all of those world leaders. And the other thing that they've told us was that in Q3, Q4, Zach Kirkhorn said in the last quarterly report, said that very likely they'll start reporting a Tesla Energy. And when they do, they start saying the production and delivery of these energy megapacks and the sales, we're going to start saying that Tesla is now more than just a car company. So now the last two things is FSD and Gigafactories announced. Why don't you answer the Gigafactory question, Brian? What you were expecting there?
We've been told to expect there can be an announcement by the end of the year. I believe there will be an announcement by the end of the year. I still think India is a logical choice. A $25,000 car makes sense. We know we need more factories to continue the 50% year-over-year compound annual growth rate, and a additional factory comparable to Giga Nueva Leon is going to be required for that to happen. We also know that Tesla had what I would call good success building Texas and Berlin at the same time, using largely the same design. Not completely, not entirely, but close. Similar enough in philosophy that building them both at the same time made sense. So why they would build Mexico and not an additional factory at the same time, I don't know. You could argue perhaps they're stretched too thin, since Texas is still growing all the time. Berlin is slated for a massive expansion itself. Maybe Mexico and Berlin Phase 2 are the two factories, but I don't believe that's the case. I believe we're going to see a whole additional factory location announced, and it's going to come before the end of the year, maybe even in Q3. And I would expect the two factories, Texas, Mexico, and the unnamed one, to compete, to race to see who can get done first.
Love it, Brian. See, now you're optimistic again. I'm enjoying that very much. Thank you. Loving you. Okay, so obviously the next 6 months, it's ramping really quickly. It is just all these things are happening. And so many businesses now, right? We're talking energy and bots and the cars still, of course, and just the AI. So all of these are going to be doubling, tripling in terms of all the things that they're doing. The company's just rocking it, and the next 6 months will be even just amazing. Thank you, Brian.
It's going to be so huge. Good. It's going to be so huge, and I'm excited for it. And it's, oh my gosh. The first half of the year, I'd swear, looking back, feels quiet compared to what we're seeing now. And this is the Tesla I am used to. This is where I'm most comfortable. And I just appreciate you having such great discussions and coming up with such great questions and topics, and it's a lot of fun. So I thank you for that.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, and you too. So please follow Brian at MyTeslaWeekend on YouTube. He's also on Twitter at 4K Podcast. And yeah, you saw it here. He's got tremendous knowledge, and he's got the insiders. So that's why you got to watch his videos. All right, guys. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.